Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Kreitz. I'm with the Department of Workforce Development. I am the Data and System Administrator, and I'm going to discuss these training modules as an overview, what the aims are of them, and what we're going to cover in all of them. The first step is that welcome to adult education. Thank you for participating. We appreciate all of you in all of the work that you do. With that said, there is a lot of work that you have to do for us as well. That's all of the data collection, all the monitoring of your processes to ensure that you're getting the Hoosiers, the education and training and certifications and HSEs that you need. And hello, Beta. That's my cat. Yes, that's our cat. I'm in his room, really. So just know that we appreciate all of it. I'm going to try to cover everything that you need to know as an existing adult education provider or a brand new adult education provider. It's going to go over some of the policies. It's going to go over how you use our data collection system. There's going to be many things that you're going to have questions on. We have an amazing remote support software. It's called Bomgar. I will show you how to use that, as well as how to contact us. Your first line of contact should be your adult ed coordinator, your AEC, and I am sure you either know who they are or have been introduced to them through the contract, the RFA, or once you've been awarded a grant, you've been put in contact with your adult ed coordinator. I'll go over all of the overview things as to how being an adult ed provider and what that means and how it looks in a data structure so that you can better understand how you're going to do what you're going to do. I will show you everything in a test environment. I will actually enter things. You can pause the videos. You can rewatch the videos. I would also suggest that you go ahead and get a pen and a piece of paper or a notepad and take notes. There will be things that I will say that you should write this down, or I will repeat a couple of times that are important things, so that if you have those handy while you're doing data entry or you're working in inters, you can quickly look at them and reference. I will also say there are a few policies that you should have printed out and share with yourself, your staff, so that they understand why they have to do what they're doing. None of this is guesswork. Most of it is all federal regulations and some state law and codes that give you the money to be able to do what you're doing. So with that comes you're entering a contract with the state of Indiana. So you have to provide these services, and this is what's expected, and this is how you do it. Aside from that, we do not micromanage the programs on your day-to-day operations of how you set up courses, how you conduct the training, how you do the teaching, what teachers you hire. We don't do any of that. We're not like that. We will come in and monitor your processes. We will do desktop audits of your data. You'll see that the system is coded in context and with the federal guidelines and the state policies, so that if you do mess something up, it immediately tells you, hey, you missed this, or this is wrong. It's also coded with the DRC or the TABE policies. It's coded with the HSE or task policies of what is an acceptable pass and not. All of those things are already in the system for you. All you have to do is enter the data and maintain the data. Now, that, in my opinion, is almost a full-time job for a single staff member. So, in this introduction, I'm going to give you some recommendations. We recommend at the state that you have one data entry person it's their major focus of ensuring that the data is entered properly and that they are in charge of the data at your program. We would also suggest that you have a backup for that person if something should happen. We would also suggest that you limit the number of supervisor overrides, and you'll understand this when we actually get into later modules of what that means of correcting errors in the system. We have some target deadlines and dates that must be met. And when we get into the data collection policy, those are all stated very clearly. Like one of them is all of your errors should be cleaned up by the 10th of every month. The reason that is that at the 12th or after the 10th, we do the billing so that all of the stuff that you're invoicing goes out. So we need to make sure that your data is clear. And it also helps you maintain your data so that it's clean, so that you don't have to do as much work at the end of the year, so that you get credit on your national reporting system reports for the state. All of your numbers get combined down to be a part of the state numbers, and that's how we get our funding so that we can continue to have the programs. So in a nutshell, that's what adult basic education and entering a contract with the state is going to entail. And I will try to show you all of the little things that you're going to need to do on a day-to-day or a weekly basis to ensure that you're following those procedures and those policies. If you have any questions at any time on any of the policies, or you don't understand, reach out to your AEC, your adult ed coordinator. Reach out to Jerry Hafner, the assistant state director, or anybody that's in the policy team, or just the DWD email. You should be attending the statewide calls that we hold monthly. Those are held on the second Wednesday of every month. We also have them all recorded, posted on our AE page. I will show you exactly where they're at. And we also have them archived back to, I believe, 2-3 years. So you can go back and see progression changes through the Fed policy changes or things like that. But get in on that call list. If you're not, contact the DWD email with your email saying you would like to be included on the statewide call list so that you can join us every month for our calls. Since COVID, we have started doing them all virtually. I run them all from my home office here, which is where we're at right now. Welcome. I am going to try to be clear. I'm going to try to show you with the software what you need to do. And basically you will see my face in a little smaller screen so that you can still feel that one-on-one conversation. And we'll just go from there. I should have like my screen. You should be able to see all of it. And if not, I'll move my cam so that you can see everything that I'm talking about. So the very first module that you're already attending is the overview. So we're going to assume that you are or have been awarded an AE grant. With that, we're going to need to know who your fiscal agent is. Who got the award letter for the grant? That entity is your fiscal agent. And in INTERS, we create an umbrella corporation that is your fiscal agent. Okay, so there's the fiscal agent, which is you. Underneath that, there is an ABE program. Underneath that are locations, physical address locations where courses or classes are held. So think of them as schools. They don't have to be schools. They can be public libraries, jails. We have locations all over the place. And then under that, once all of that hierarchy is set up, is where your day-to-day maintenance takes over. We create all of the locations, all of the users, all of the fiscal agents, all of the ABE programs. So we tie all of those umbrella things together. So if you're a grantee, you got awarded a grant, you are a grant recipient. If you award money to any other AE provider underneath you, they are subrecipients. All right. So we need to know if you have subrecipients to report to that fiscal agent. so that if we run fiscal reports, everything that goes to that fiscal agent is reported properly. So the hierarchy of how the system is structured is really important. I know it's really high. You don't really need to know. We set it up and it's fine. But you need to understand how it works so that you can maintain your data. So once all of that is set up, you are in charge of creating all of your teacher accounts, all of your courses, and all of your student records. You are also in charge of all of your subrecipients doing the same things. If you are a fiscal agent and you have subrecipients, you are responsible for their data as well. I just want to make that clear. It's not just that, hey, we have this ABE program, but we also give money to this other ABE program. You're responsible for their data because you are the fiscal agent. All right, enough of that. So your responsibility on doing teachers, courses, and students uses what we call INTERS. INTERS is a standalone software, and it used to stand for, the actual name comes from Indiana Technical Education Reporting System. It was created back in 2004. It's gone through many modifications and changes, and it used to just be the data collection system for career and technical education for all of the CTE students. When DWD took over adult basic education, we modified the system, and now it's two parts. There's still a CTE system, but then there is the adult basic education system. And for the most part, ABE users are in the system every single day, entering data every single day. I'll repeat this in a different module, but you should enter data every day. You should. In the policy, it states a minimum of weekly, but we still recommend that you enter your data every day for attendance and tests and all of that stuff. If you wait longer than weekly, you're going to get out of order of operations and create errors for yourself in the system. Everything is predicated on student attendance. Testing. TABE says that if a student comes in and tests at this level, they must meet a minimum number of hours of instruction before you can post-test them. If the student has sat in your classes and gotten those number of hours and taken the post-test, but you don't enter the attendance and you put the post-test in, you create an error which is called post-test too early. You're not supposed to create errors. You should try to be as efficient and error-free as possible so you have less to clean up by the 10th of every month. So I hope that explains in an overview of what being an adult ed provider is. Now I'm going to show you the tools in which we use to help you report, achieve, and give us your outcomes of your students and their successes. The first thing I'm going to show you is the adult education website. This is a valuable website for all of the information, especially for a director, to understand what it is that you need to do. So, without further ado, here I am on Google. You're going to want to go to Google search Amplify AE. When you Google search Amplify AE, the very top link that you should see is dwd-amplifyae-in.gov. If not, that's not what you see. You can type directly to the link. So here's your first note: www.in.gov/DWD/2884.htm. Again, www.in.gov/DWD/2884.htm. Once you're there, you're going to see the page that's displayed on your screen right now. this page is full of a lot of information for providers, but it's really easy to navigate. So you'll first see there's an alert that pops up about DWD issues found with unemployment. That's going to pop up every single DWD page that you go to. You can click the X on that, and it's underneath my webcam. But I closed that out so it wouldn't clutter up our screen. So on the page, you're going to see DWD Amplify AE. And if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, right, you got all the state resources. But our page is really small. We have 3 links. That's it. 3 tabs for you as adult ed providers. Number 1, Indiana Adult Education News and Events. You can click on the Learn More and see what's going on with DWD. Okay? The next one is Program Management, which is the most critical. This is where all of the state policies, the law, federal guidelines, everything is posted under Program Management. Then you have Professional Development. If you click on Learn More for this, you'll see all of the links and all of the resources that we have put into place that we feel will help you as providers provide professional development for your teachers. Excuse me. We have an entire PDF team, professional development team at DWD that also has an entire statewide set of PDF representatives of ABE programs by region, or maybe more than one person per region, that collaborates for trainings, for professional development needs for adult provider programs. So we've done all of that work for you. These are just resources. Okay. So the big important one, let's talk about program management. On this page, you're going to see a couple of links: program policy and guidance, very, very important. Grants and forms, which you should have already gotten because you've already been awarded a grant. All right. But you'll still have to use these and look at these for continuation grants or new grant years. The forms may change. You're going to see accountability of inters. We've got one for TABE and we have one for HSC. So let's just talk about program policy and guidance. Within here, this is new and it's different and this is temporary, but here are all of the COVID updates for adult education. They're listed right at the top. And it's important information just on how to do things and do business during COVID. Close that error again. When you start scrolling down, you'll see all of the links for all of the policies. I am not going to cover these policies. I am going to cover 2 policies that pertain to data collection and what you do on a day-to-day basis as an adult ed provider. They're really critical on why the system is set up the way it is. The first one is the actual adult education data and collection policy. And then the other one is the educational functioning level assessment policy on how to administer the TABE test. Those 2 are the key ones I will cover in this module. But if you scroll further down the page, earlier in the video I said all of our webinars are recorded. Here are all of those calls. All of 2019 is here, and then the archived ones are here if you click this button. And I'm not sure exactly how far it goes back, but here are all of the calls we've had for this year. Most of them are supplemented with the PowerPoint that we displayed or any other information. So you can download the PowerPoint in the actual PowerPoint or the PDF. You can watch all of these. They're uploaded to YouTube. So if I click that, it's going to go to YouTube. Okay, so it's going to play the video immediately as soon as you go. So that's us doing a virtual webinar, and all of the information for all of the directors and data people that attend the call go there. If you need to be on that call or you wish to participate in those monthly calls, send an email to the DWD contact email for the adult ed contact information. right here, adulted@dwd.in.gov. Again, that email is adulted@dwd.in.gov. Any of your policy questions, grant questions, stuff like that, go there if your AEC can't help you. But your first email should always be to your AEC, your Adult Education Coordinator. They're regional, they're DWD staff, and they work with the programs. So there's all of our calls. All right. So the policies. Let's first look at the data collection policy, because that's what these training modules are about, is you collecting your data. So if we open this, you're going to see this policy, and you can read this whole thing. I suggest you go ahead and print it out and have a copy. It's going to tell you the required data reporting. These are federal requirements. And then it's going to show you the optional data reporting, which is more state. All right, but it's still also federal for follow-up and stuff like that. It's going to show you why we need social security numbers and why you have to ask. But here's the important thing that I want to talk about right here. And I already mentioned it. We strongly recommend that the data be entered into enters on a weekly basis. Weekly basis. However, I'm going to suggest that you do this every day. We understand that time constraints and things like that. That's why I said you should have an individual dedicated to doing data entry if you can do it. When you have a teacher who's teaching a course and has to administer the tests and all of that stuff, they may not have time to go in and get all of this done before their next course or within a week of doing all of this if they're teaching all the time. So it's best to have an administrative person be in charge of your data. Again, I'm not telling you how to set up your program. You can do it how you want. These are just the best practices. Many of the programs across the state, large and small, have a dedicated data entry person. That they may share a separate hat of doing other things, but that's their major focus, is taking care of the data. It's that important, that critical. It's how you get paid. And it also says in the next paragraph that the data must be clean and error-free by the 10th of the month. So we'll cover all of those errors and everything when I get into the system. You're also required to maintain physical records of your students and teachers. So the next policy is the Education Functioning Level Assessment Policy. We always refer to it as the assessment policy. All right. Just so if somebody says, hey, yeah, just refer to the assessment policy, this is the one we're talking about. This shows you all of the DRC or TABE information on TABE tests. The first thing I want to cover, and it's critical you understand this, is that the test levels are important for testing. For example, they're all listed right here. Level L, E, M, D, and A. You may hear us refer to it as LIMDA. That's just how we say it. It's how I've learned it. It's LIMDA. You can go down the chart as it's listed here, but you can never go up. All right. You can test up, but you can never test down. And what that means is if a student passes an E test, you can never give them an L test again. They're already past that level. It will become an invalid test. You've wasted your time, resources, money on the test materials, and the student's time. It's invalid. Can't be used. You can test E and stay on E until you feel they can go up to an M. But once they hit an M, they can't go back to an E. They always have to maintain the M or up. Okay? With the changes to table 11 and 12, the score ranges within the test now are much broader, so it's easier to test the students. And if you're not familiar with ABE testing and TABE testing, the older tests were much more narrow. They had valid range scores that if a student got this many questions right, they were good. And if they didn't get this many questions right, they were bad. If they scored this many right, they were out of range on the high end. There are no more tests that are out of range on the high end. So if the test question pool was 25 questions and they got 25 right on the test, they were out of range. You should have tested them on the higher level. You don't have to do that anymore. If they score a max on it, hey, good for you. They may even get a level gain on the test depending on where they started within that same M test. All right. So those are the lambdas. Critical to understand. You can test E to M, but not M to E. M to D, not D to M. D to A, not A back. So if a student gets an A, passes an A level test at any time, they can't take any other test but the advanced test. So for the data collection, let me back up. You're going to hear people refer to NRS levels 1 through 6. They're here, right here. Table 3. We have the numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those correlate directly to those ASE levels. That's why it says NRS, ABE, ASE levels. Okay? But they also have a name to them. ABE beginning lit is NRS level 1. So to get a measurable skill gain, and you'll hear MSG all the time. That's what we're talking about, is an MSG. Measurable skill gain, if a student enters at level 1, they can get a gain, 1 gain, if they pass a post-test into level 2. That student can come in at a level 1, and you can post-test them all the way up to level 6, and they received 5 gains, but for NRS reporting purposes, you get 1 MSG per student per program year. I'll say that again. For federal reporting standards, 1 student can achieve 1 measurable skill gain per program year. DWD and the feds are going to count the highest gain as the gain. So, for example, if a student comes in at a 4, NRS level 4, they pass the test and go to a 5. That's an MSG, that's a measurable skill gain. You teach them, and they pass another test, and they go to a level 6. That's a measurable skill gain. And then they're ready for their HSE, and they pass their task test. They pass the HSE. That is a gain as well. For reporting standards, the student will be reported with the HSE gain. That is the highest gain. All right. These 2 measurable skill gains won't show on the report. And when we get into the reports module, it'll make more sense. The HSE gain will show. How students are counted for federal guidelines. A student must have 12 hours of face-to-face instruction to be considered enrolled. This assessment policy says that within the first 12 hours of instruction, you must administer the full battery of tests to those students to figure out what their entry levels are. So, within the first 12 hours of face-to-face instruction, and typically most programs do this in an orientation class, you have them fill out their registration forms and their information for your program, for their student data file, and then you administer a pretest or a locator. Put that information into enters, right, when they're done, and then you talk about your program in the orientation class. It is also recommended that you set up an orientation course, and I'll show you how to do that in another module. But I recommend that you go ahead and set up just a sole dedicated orientation course, because when you do an intake on a student, you can just throw every single student into that orientation course, and once they're done with that, then you enroll them into whatever course they need to go to, how you have your program set up. Since I mentioned doing intake and orientation, I want you to understand something else on the data collection policy. You are required as a program to enter every single student who inquires about your adult ed program. I'm going to say that again. You are required to enter every single student who inquires about your adult education program. You're hearing me correctly. I said inquires about. So, for example, we know this is hard. So, just listen, pause, replay again. If a student calls your program and asks you what you offer, by federal guidelines, you're required to get their name, first and last, and their date of birth, and inquire about the social security number, and put them into enters. You're required to. However, we understand that's a little difficult. We get it. People aren't going to answer your questions on the phone like that. That's fine. But in the conversation, you can say, okay, hey, let me make some notes. What's your name and date of birth? We just need to know what age group we need, because we have this, and it might be better if you're in this class. Anything like that. Whether they lie about it or not, that's fine. You must enter them in. Now, we get that may be hard. But if a student walks through your doors, guaranteed you should get all of that information and put them into enters. Specifically, if they walk through your doors, you should get all of that information and enter it into enters. Hand them the registration form and boom. You can give them a tour while they do it, whatever. If they don't fill it all the way out, that's fine. Every student who sits down for your orientation course, even if they leave in the middle of the orientation course, must be entered into enters. So basically, any individual that you have contact with that inquires or asks or does anything about your adult ed program, you need to enter into enters. And I want you to understand this. I'm going to say this a couple of times. These students do not count for or against you for federal reporting purposes. They do not count for or against you. All right? What that means is, I said it earlier, only students who have 12 or more hours of face-to-face instruction count on your NRS table, and you're held accountable to them. So once a student hits 12 hours, now the clock starts ticking of, did you get a gain with that student or did they earn their HSC? If they never do, that student counts against you. They are in your denominator of students, of enrolled students, total number of enrolled students. And then did they get a gain? Okay? The students who do not have 12 hours of face-to-face instruction do not count. However, there is a new specific table that the feds want to see who has been into your program, who has made contact, and then who didn't show up and keep going. Right? So it's a contact table. That's all they want. What are the numbers of people inquiring and showing up or not even coming in? That's what it is. They don't count for or against you, but you are required to enter them in. So get as much basic information as you can on them. All right. Moving on. So this is the assessment policy. I would print one of these out and have it handy. So further down on the table on page 6, it shows you the the minimum hours and the how to do the alternate form. So what's that saying? If you test a student on table 11M, your next test after 40 hours should be 12M. Or if you think they can pass a higher test, remember lambda, give them the D. All right. It also shows you Class E hours and all of this, the minimum hours, and enters. The data collection system is coded for these hours. It also lists the proctor training requirements. Okay. Any of the accommodations. So this is an important policy that you need to understand. I'm not going to cover any of the rest of them, but as a director, as a brand new AE program, you need to print or read or understand all of these policies and adhere to them as best possible for your program. So with that, I'm going to show you how to contact us. I already showed you the DWD email, adulted@dwd.in.gov. To get technical assistance, I and Bryn Cisco, you'll hear his name, are your tech support representatives for all things inters and data related. We can answer some questions if it goes beyond a normal, why didn't this student get a gain, or things like that. If it's more of a policy question, we'll refer you back to your AEC or somewhere else. We don't answer policy questions in that sense, right? we can do basics, but not anything major. And you guys are in luck. So today is June 19th, at the time of this recording. I just showed you where our webinars were at, correct? So if you scroll down, our brand new one is now here. If I refresh the page, it should be here. There it is. This one was just posted. We just recorded this Wednesday, 2 days ago. So that's how I'm in charge of this. I tried to get those uploaded as fast as possible. So the new call is up. Keep an eye on this after all the calls. Just thought I'd point that out. I just got the email that there you go. And I like this to be an informal. I want you to feel like you're just sitting here with me and not watching a YouTube video that's a recording. So, how you get a hold of Brent and I? You can email us, and I'll put our emails up, or try to. But here is the best way. I'm going to open a new tab. This is a note, so take a note. If you do this and you pause the video or whatever, or you write this down, you're going to go to a website that's called BOMGAR. It's actually Beyond Trust software now. That is a remote support software that we use to interact with you. We can install inters, we can manually control your computer to help you with errors or something, or show you how to do something. It's an invaluable tool that we use to be able to help you. So here's the website, support.sherb.com. SUPPORT, and I'm just in a Google search button, SCHERB.com. Hit enter. And it will pop up with this website. And you'll see that there are representatives listed. The only representatives that you should click on, if you see any other names, are Bryn Cisco and me, Matt Kreitz. I am not listed right now because I'm recording this video and in your living room. But here's how it works. You click on said name. It's going to ask you, if it asks you to save, just say, yep, save it, and it's going to put it right here. It's downloading the executable file to run the system. And as soon as it downloads and is done, if it doesn't do anything, click down here in the lower left-hand corner, just like I have my mouse, and it will run, and now you can see you're connecting. When it connects, Bryn will pick up. It's like answering the phone. Bryn will pick up. He's going to say, hey, how can we help? Or something to that effect. And yes, you want to allow so you can see it. And there you go. That easy. And when you're done, click the red X or heal in the conversation, and something else is going to pop up. A survey. Please fill it out. our boss, the state director, Marilyn Pizzulo, looks at those. And if we did a bad service, tell us we did bad. It makes us get better at customer service, or helps us get better at customer service. If we did good, tell us about it. So that's Bomgar. Again, support.sherb.com. Okay, support.sherb.com. SCHERB.com. Click on our names. So that's the policies. That's the overview. In the next module, I'm going to go over inters, how to get it installed and all of that stuff. So join me in the next module.